Today, me and Jayden are going to be talking about Black leaders in government. So slideshow, please. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Black representation in government today. So in the U.S. House of Representatives, there's been a pretty steady increase in Black people who are represented in the government. As you can see, there's about 50 representatives now, which aligns out of the 450, I think, about that there are total. And that's closer to proportional representation, meaning that about 13% of the House of Representatives is Black, and Black people make up about 13% of the total US population, which I think is a good thing. There's also more Black US cabinet members, so that would be in the president's office, part of the bureaucracy. So I was kind of surprised to find out that Barack Obama's first term had some of the lowest Black representation in government, but it increased a lot in his second term. Trump had a pretty low also number of Black people in his cabinet, and then it went up with Joe Biden because he has quite a few people who are in his cabinet that are Black. And I also have a little bit of statistics regarding how representation in government is seen by the U.S. public, whether it's seen as a good thing and if it's a way to get racial equality. So out of all U.S. adults, only about 27% think that having increased Black representation in government is a good thing for racial equality. So that's a pretty decent number of people, but definitely not really a majority. And it kind of breaks down by race. So Black people, for example, think that having more Black people in government would be a good thing, whereas it's a little bit lower for white, Hispanic, and Asian populations. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different leaders today and recently that are Black in government. So Barack Obama is kind of the GOAT, sort of. You guys all know who he is, president. He went to Columbia. He worked as a community organizer in Chicago. After that, he went to Harvard Law School. After that, he was in the Illinois Senate and then ran for the United States of America Senate in 2004, and then became president in 2008. Jerry and Lauren also talked about Kamala Harris the other day, so she's the first Black or Indian vice president, so that's a pretty big deal.
So there are many people in Congress currently that are Black. Okay, so there are many Black people in Congress today, starting with Tim Scott. He is the senator currently for South Carolina. He originally served a term in the House of Representatives and was appointed to the Senate in 2013 and has since served in the Senate, winning a special election in 2014, and he won his full-term election in 2016, so he will be holding his seat in the Senate for quite a long time, and he serves along with the other senator for South Carolina. The next representative is Cori Bush. Yeah, Cori Booker. Sorry, Cori Booker. He is the senator for New Jersey, and he was also elected as senator of New Jersey in 2013. He is a member of the Democratic Party and the first African American senator for New Jersey. He was previously the 38th mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and he served on many councils for the city.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about some up-and-coming Black leaders in government, and these are people who have kind of come onto the scene a lot more recently than Kamala Harris or Barack Obama, who are doing big things, and hopefully you guys will see a little bit more about them today. So first we have Stacey Abrams. She kind of came to prominence in 2018 after she lost the gubernatorial race to Brian Kemp to become governor of Georgia, and a lot of people said that she would have won had voter suppression not existed. So she kind of took up that cause and founded Fair Fight Action, which is an organization that addresses voter suppression. And she started it in 2018, shortly after she lost her race to Brian Kemp. Her efforts have been widely credited with boosting voter turnout in Georgia, including in the 2020 presidential election, where Joe Biden won the state, and in Georgia's 2020 to 2021 U.S. Senate election and special election, which gave Democrats control over the Senate. She also was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, which I think is a pretty big deal. Well, yeah, obviously a pretty big deal. And I think a lot of her efforts have done well to make sure that the general interests of the population are represented fairly by decreasing the amount of voter suppression, not only in Georgia, but, well, mainly in Georgia, and those can have really consequential effects on the rest of the country. We also have Reverend Raphael Warnock. He was the senior pastor of Douglas Memorial Community Church and Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. He came to prominence in Georgia politics as a leading activist in the campaign to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Warnock also defeated incumbent Kelly Loeffler in the runoff in Georgia's Senate special election on January 5th, 2021. So I don't know, maybe a lot of you guys kind of remember that. It was in the news a lot because this was one of the seats that could be flipped. Like, depending on who it went to, it would determine if the Senate was a Democratic or a Republican majority, which is a pretty big deal. And a lot of his ability to be elected was kind of credited by people credited Stacey Abrams' efforts to increase voter turnout in his election. And then lastly, we have Cori Bush, who is a representative in the House of Representatives. Her interest in politics began after the 2014 Ferguson unrest, where she worked as a triage nurse and an organizer. She said she was assaulted by a police officer as she was hit by an officer but was not arrested. So during a lot of the protests in Ferguson, Missouri, following the death of unarmed Black people, she kind of rose to prominence as a leader in the community to decrease the amount of police brutality. Bush is a Nonviolence 365 ambassador with the King Center for Nonviolent Social Change, and she defeated 10-term incumbent Lacey Clay in a 2020 U.S. House of Representatives primary election, largely viewed as a historic upset. So defeating a person who's been incumbent for 10 consecutive terms, that's nearly 20 years, is a pretty big deal. So she's kind of a new face on the scene. So that's a little bit about Black leaders in government, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.